Hi everyone, Carter Krishna are back from the Pavilion. We're simulcasting on Beyond the 90, and we are brought to you every day by the Boca Tribune, bocatribune.com, your best source for local news in South Florida and your best source for cricket news in the entire state of Florida. Let's get to it. It's a busy day, and I little pressed for time between all the cricket and my standing commitments to cover soccer here in Southern Florida. So earlier kickoff time today for Fort Lauderdale United than usual, and I have to get out to the ground. So let's cover the highlights from today. South Africa crushes New Zealand. I felt like New Zealand, they never got their innings going, even though they ended up on 175, which was kind of strange given how labored it seemed. There is just a continued efficiency about South Africa. Markham in that opening partnership using a closed face of his bat for cover drives on two early balls from Henry set the tone. So at that point, South Africa is already off and running in the first over, and they never looked back, didn't give away their wicket easily. We're trying to keep the flow of runs going, and they would mix in boundaries. So in the power play, lots of boundaries. But then after that, just trying to get the job done. David Miller on strike, trying to get the job done, and they do. And they are just now coming into form. Some concerns about them coming into this match, but it was pretty amazing, this performance. And bowling from, quite frankly, the bowling from, as I look at my notes here, from New Zealand was poor in the power play, and it just kind of never gave them a chance. If you're giving up runs at that rate, you have to get some wickets, and they weren't able to do that. So that's that really is it. In their innings, New Zealand, anytime they had some momentum, they lost a wicket. So if you saw the kind of the trajectory of runs, it was like this. And it was those middle overs that really killed them. So what we thought was going to be a dramatic, great match ended up being very one-sided. Let's talk about England a little bit. They get the job done against Scotland. Bethel has been unflappable in this tournament, and that's really the takeaway for me from England, because they have so many experienced players that are not necessarily performing consistently in this tournament. The Phil Salt, Joss Butler partnership has been one of the worst opening partnerships in this entire tournament. Two highly experienced players, Butler in particular, two guys who were winners, who've won a ton at the T20 level, have been giving away their wicket easily, not producing runs, not setting the tone for England. So really was impressed with Bethel again today, and Banton. Banton was fantastic. Bethel is so unflappable. He went and chased some balls on the offside that I thought kind of questionable, and maybe he's forcing it because the opening partnership didn't work again, and it hasn't worked in this tournament. And he was great, and he was very calm. There's a certain aura about him I'm really beginning to like from Bethel. So he's rapidly becoming my favorite English player in this particular team this time. Jofra Archer, really good economy today, some good bowling. He's been hit or miss, right? He was very poor against Nepal, really good in these last two matches. Although, again, I make the point against Nepal, it was his self-sacrifice when he was batting that allowed Jacks to get back on strike to win the match. Let's see, what else from that match do we like? 41,000 at Eden Gardens, which is more than I would expect for a match involving Scotland. Now, I know maybe a lot of those people in Kolkata showed up to see England, but that's a great number. That's an attendance number I'm circling and highlighting here. Also, obviously, a really good effort, I think, from Scotland in terms of their bowling at times in this match. They were in it. It had a feeling there wasn't a time in the match that I felt like England was really threatened to potentially lose, but they kept alive. Sam Curran, okay bowling today, but on the other end batting, he was pretty good. Now for Scotland, you really have to like what Richie Barrington did with the bat. Michael Jones also, and these are players that have looked good in this tournament. So let's talk a little bit about Ireland. Ireland gets the easy win over Oman. Ireland wins by 96 runs, one of the most decisive matches of the tournament. It had the same feeling as the U.S.-Netherlands match yesterday. Ireland still has a chance with their run rate, if there were some other upsets in that group, to go through. So keep an eye on that. They have a lot of T20 experience. 235 runs today is a real statement, and anything can happen. We're seeing in this tournament, anything can happen. So tomorrow we have the West Indies and Nepal. West Indies, for me, have been the best team in this tournament. Nepal, so promising against England, but then collapsed in the next match against Italy. This should be a routine win for the West Indies, but there is going to be a very partisan pro-Nepali club, a crowd at the ground at the Vakande in Mumbai. So West Indies have to be ready to handle that. And the pro-Nepali crowd is even more vocal than the pro-Indian crowds in India. So that's something to watch. We have the U.S. and Namibia. U.S. still technically alive in this tournament. Positive run rate now. Actually, run rate is better than it was when they advanced in the last World Cup. But circumstances in this group probably make it difficult to advance. If they're going to have any chance of advancing, they need to win tomorrow, and preferably by a big score. What does Manak Patel do? Does he stick with the team that was so effective against the Netherlands in Chennai? Same ground. The U.S. Pegged as a fairly big favorite in this match, which surprises me. But that's how impressed people have been by the U.S.'s performances in all three matches. It's culminating with that match against the Netherlands. Tomorrow, I think we're going to see Van Schalwyk again. Look for wickets. He's leading the tournament in wickets taken with 11. He's only 6 off the record. Now, he's going to have to get 6 in this match to match the record because the U.S. is probably not going to advance. But he's been phenomenal. I think Harmeet has bowled well in most of the tournament and was phenomenal against Netherlands. Obviously, we are also looking at a situation where you have a squad that now is confident and healthy. Ali Khan is back. He can bowl a couple overs. Mukamala, who was not in the squad against Pakistan, goes for a half century against the Netherlands, sets the tone. Sanjay, who has not played well in the last 2 matches, has the confidence from how he played against India in the first match. Sanjay and Mukamala being your 2 very young American cricketers of Indian origin, but American-born cricketers who have been born and raised in the United States. The next generation for the United States. This tournament is very early for them in their careers, and they're meeting the test so far. Mohsin has been the underrated bowler of the tournament for the United States, and his leg spins, and he's not just a leg spinner. He's got a lot of variation in his ball and his deliveries. That's something that I'd like to see him get 2 or 3 overs in the middle overs tomorrow. Let's see how Manak uses him. That would be good, I think, to really slow up whatever Namibia might develop in the power play. Not sure we're going to see Netravalkar tomorrow. I think what you want on the track in Chennai, as we saw against the Netherlands, is some medium bowlers, which is Van Schalwyk. You want some off spinners. And that's Singh, that's Harmeet Singh, who has incredible amount of experience on the Indian subcontinent, and actually was a quite decorated young IPL player at one time before coming to the United States. His career dropped off. Let's be honest, like, guys' careers drop off if they're Indian before they come to the United States. They're not the elite players, but they do have a sufficient amount of experience, especially for matches in here in the subcontinent. Kangeje is someone I had been calling for to be back in the squad. another spinner who I think is going to get a few overs tomorrow. He got a wicket on his very first delivery against the Netherlands, so that was significant. And obviously, that opening partnership this time worked. Manak inserting himself into that with Cheyenne, and they both were, and you get the combination there of kind of different abilities. They're both right-handed, which sometimes you don't want that, right? Two right-handers in that power play, but the U.S. also, I should say, the U.S. left-handed spinners were particularly good against the Netherlands. So I think we figured out the chemistry of the kind of squad we want in the conditions of the Indian subcontinent later in the group stage, but I expect to win this match from the U.S. perspective. So now let's get to the one that matters. The one, they all matter, but the one that everyone is concerned about globally, India, Pakistan, the big talking point. The whole world will be watching this. More people will be watching this match than watch the Winter Olympics, for Americans who think the Olympics are the biggest thing. And far more will be watching this match than watch the Super Bowl. And maybe more people will be watching this match than watched Liverpool, Manchester City last weekend. Although I'm not positive about that. A lot of people watched Liverpool, Manchester City. I think close to 1 billion people did, by some estimates. We know how big the Premier League, the English, I don't like calling it the EPL. That's a 20-year-old old acronym. The Prem, as I call it, the Premier League. We know how popular that is around the world. Another popular Premier League is the Indian Premier League. So that's why there's so much interest, I think, in T20 cricket now, while the kind of test and one-day cricket is dying in interest. But that's a subject for Ed and I on our kind of culturally focused From the Pavilion podcast, Ed Borth and myself. Let's talk about India. Have not been impressed in this tournament, let's face it. But they worked their way into the tournament. Sky saved them against the United States when the U.S. had every opportunity to beat them. We know how good the spin is from some of their bowlers. Pakistan, particularly good at hitting spin. So that's why Bumrah being back, Bumrah, who is, in my view, one of the best bowlers in the world, one of the best fast bowlers in the world, being back, they did not have him against the United States. He was kind of worked into the team against Namibia, knowing that was going to be a match that the U.S., they didn't want to take any chances, right? Which for good reason. Right? It ended up being a much more competitive match than maybe some people expected. Although I have to give the Indian media credit. They really respect the U.S. team because they followed a lot of those players of Indian origin and Indian descent, the American-born Indian Americans. And they rate the U.S. probably more than the U.S. is rated in England or in Australia or in South Africa, right? And so India has been kind of defensive in the way they've approached the U.S. in the last 2 World Cups, since they've been put in the same group in both these World Cups. So Bumrah was not featured in that match. They didn't want to give the U.S. pace, especially a guy just kind of coming back. So he's going to be key, I think, for India in this match. And I think Dubé, obviously, what can he produce as a medium bowler? What can he produce on strike? Abhishek, another player I think is primed for a good match here. Obviously, Arshdeep, great kind of medium pacer. He's got a lot of variation in his deliveries. He's going to be critical against Pakistan because I think this is going to come down to bowling. Quite frankly, I don't think it's going to come down to who scores the most runs. This is how India beats Pakistan regularly when they play. They never play on Indian soil or Pakistani soil anymore, so there's never any home advantage. Let's talk about Pakistan. Babar had a great match against the United States, had a good enough match against the Netherlands. Not a great match, but he's going to be key to the Pakistani attack. Let's talk about their bowling, because there is more spin and variation in the Pakistani bowling attack right now than we're necessarily used to. Obviously, Afridi is a guy that is a fast bowler, and the U.S. got to him, and the Netherlands got to him. But their spinners, which is particularly important in Colombo because of the conditions, especially this time of year. Abrar has done well, and then we have to talk about Usman Tariq, who is, okay, I guess he's become a cult hero of mine. It's interesting. My video I made about him a few days ago, we're trying to work into this tournament. We're new at covering cricket in this fashion. I mean, I've covered cricket for years, but we're new with this, from the pavilion. The video I made with him about his performance against the U.S. has gone much further and wider than anything else we produced, because he is unorthodox. He is like the players I watched growing up here in the United States that pitched in baseball. And the American batters couldn't work out what to do about him. In fact, they were perplexed. India now has seen a couple days of film. I'm sure Sky has gone over it with his squad, how you get to him. And in fact, in the last over, Usman bowled against the United States. The U.S., Shubham was on strike for the U.S., began to get to him. They began to figure it out. But the U.S. had already wasted a couple overs that were critical. U.S. loses by, I think, 28 runs, something like that. Those overs were, they produced, I think on average against him, the first few overs, 3 runs. Those 3 become 10s. It's a much closer match in the death overs. So he was really good. We saw who we traditionally think are fast bowlers from Pakistan produce spin. Naseem can produce some spin, maybe some variation. You had Shadab, who is a good spinner in his own right, maybe go 4 overs tomorrow. And then Salman, I think himself, he's going to call on himself to bowl a couple overs against the Indian attack. We will be back tomorrow to wrap up this match, the U.S. match, which is obviously a very big one for the U.S. and for the continued development of cricket in this country, and West Indies, Nepal. And I should mention to our viewers, because of our sponsorship from the Boca Raton Tribune, we are going to dig in after the U.S. is out of the tournament into covering the West Indies more, assuming West Indies moves to the Super 8s. That's a request from the sponsor, that publication. There are a lot of, there are split loyalties in South Florida in terms of cricket. I think as many people root for the Windies as root for the U.S. down here. So South Florida paper. So we are going to, if you're a fan of the Windies, it's good news for you. If you're not, you're going to learn something more about the current Windies team as we dig into them. Enjoy the cricket the next few days.